2 million. Nearly 2 million advertisers are using Meta's generative AI creation tools. That's the fastest adoption of any ad tech in the company's history. In this new AI-led world where even our creative production is becoming increasingly scientific, we need a new playbook to understand how to blend the art and science of marketing. So how can you balance creative intuition and data-driven precision? I'm Benjamin Shapiro, and joining me today is Alex Schultz, who is the CMO and VP of Analytics at Meta. Alex oversees global marketing, analytics, and internationalization for the company's 3.4 billion daily users and was named one of Forbes' most influential CMOs. And today, he's going to talk about his new book, The Art and Science of Digital Advertising, which is a deep dive into how creativity and analytics work together to drive growth in an AI-first world. Alex Schultz, welcome to the MarTech podcast.
Thank you very much. It's good to see you.
It's been a minute, my friend. We kind of grew up together in internet history. We worked at eBay at what feels like a bazillion years ago.
Even if you just say 20, 20's a lot.
Let's not go into the numbers. We don't have to put a name on it. It's been a minute, my friend. And we were young pups in our 20s nearly 20 years ago at eBay.
Yeah.
And now fast forward, you're the CMO of Meta. First off, bro, holy shit. And second, how did that happen? Give us the career arc. How did you get from point eBay to where you are today?
I mean, eBay's such a good training ground. Like the people we worked with, the stuff they've done, the things they taught us. So to start with, eBay's a huge part of how I got where I am today because like you just learn so much at eBay with affiliates, with direct mail, with on-site merchandising, all of the things, paid search, affiliates and paid search interplay. So eBay was a huge part. I applied at Facebook as it was via the careers link at the bottom. I chased it down. And I'm one of the few people from that time I know who used the careers link. I got an interview, I got a job, and then I didn't have a green card. So I had to wait a year to actually join Facebook, joined in 2007. And then, inside Facebook, what I did to start with was paid search for the company to acquire advertisers and Facebook ads for the company to acquire advertisers. And there were so many basic things they weren't doing, like basic tracking, good management of agencies to do direct response marketing. And so I put that in place. Then I convinced them to do a bunch of stuff with on-site merchandising to get more businesses active. And from that point onwards, I just started doing more and more things. Like I helped my friend Naomi do SEO at first. That got me into user growth, beyond businesses, built a bunch of stuff and learned so much from what we did at eBay where we integrated the teams that did direct mail with the engineering notifications teams. Whereas at eBay, they were totally separate and they got into fights with each other, So we did all the stuff that I thought we could have done even better at eBay for the next generation of companies. And that honestly carried me pretty much all the way.
You and Katy Perry have something in common. You both found a seat on a rocket ship and were blasted towards the moon. You were at Facebook when it was a hot startup, and let's not kid ourselves about how exciting Facebook was 18 years ago. But to be more precise, the company has obviously evolved over time, going from being a social network to being a conglomerate, the conglomerate that it is today.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the guiding principles that led you from being a guy doing affiliates and SEO at an early stage startup to the CMO of a publicly traded $1 trillion company?
I mean, I think the single most important thing, and I think it sounds so nerdy, is that incrementality is everything. And so throughout everything I've done, the number one thing I've focused on is having an impact that I can prove it mattered that I did my job. And that sounds so simple, but so many people take a seat on the rocket ship and don't actually try and do anything. And when you're trying to hire team members and you hire out of, eBay back when we joined eBay, but maybe not like 2 years in, or Facebook before Meta, like these companies didn't go through big downturns at that point. They just like been on this rocket ship and you couldn't really tell who was awesome and who had just had a seat. And it really mattered to me. I wasn't the guy who took a seat on the rocket ship. So, incrementality is everything. I needed to actually do things. It needed to matter I turned up to work and it needed to make a difference. And I think that was the single most important thing throughout the whole journey.
It's hard for me to get my head around the career trajectory. I understand working at a large company and going from large company to large company, but what was it like going from a relatively small company and being there the entire time going through this growth? I mean, you wear many hats when you're at an early stage startup, and obviously those hats have had to change over time. So tell me, what's your role like on a day to day? How do you think about managing marketing when it's at such a wider scope than where you started?
Yeah, I mean, that's what rubbed off all the hair, so many hats. Um, my job is to manage teams. I mean, that is more than anything. It's like set strategy, manage teams. That's my job. Um, and so on my day to day, I would say 90% of my work is people management. Like it really is. It's like, um, I think it's really important that I gather all the information from our senior leadership, what Zuck's thinking about. I had a bunch of meetings with members of the board, and then summarize all that stuff up and make sure it's getting to the people who need the information. Meet with my peers on the leadership team, get that information to my team, and help make sure that people are doing their best work. And then sort of coach and develop them on how to work together. You know, I on my directs, I have 4 of my 6 directs have worked for me for over a decade. Actually, 4 of the 6, I think, have been with me for 15 years or more. Um, and we've grown up together in the company. And the 2 other folks, well, those are divisions I brought into the team actually, less than 5 years ago. And so I just like my job is to make people more successful. My job is to manage people. My job is to develop people. My job is to help people succeed. That's it.
I hear you, and I understand the executive track and giving people the strategy and the coaching to manage their team. It's logical. But you're a brilliant marketer. You've always been a brilliant marketer. From back in the day, even there was the paper airplane website
Yep.
before you were at eBay. You
Yep.
were building a site. You picked a niche. Classic marketing. Are you still doing that today?
I still have the paper airplane
Love
website.
it. Love it.
It now has all the correct cookie banners.
Good, good. I'm glad to know that you fixed the one bug. You've always been a wonderful tactician. So, how did you stay involved, not necessarily in the operations, but in the understanding of the practice of marketing while you were so busy managing a larger organization?
Yeah, so let's talk about something that's going on at the moment. A big developing area is influencer marketing, right? It's gone 0 to 100 in 4 years, I'd say. And so I'm spending a lot of time with the team. So I spent a bunch of time at Cannes meeting with our clients, asking them what they wanted from us for influencer marketing. We have these partnership ads, they're going really, really well. But what else did people need? And there was a lot of stuff they said about data. There was a lot of stuff they said about performance, results, measurement, all these things. And data and measurement in order to select the right creators and influencers to work with. And then I work with my team and we're buying ads with influencers for direct response. We are working with influencers like we launched the Ray-Ban Meta glasses. We launched these with Mbappe. It was a little aggressive to call one of the top football players on earth an influencer, but we're working with influencers and creators ourselves. And so I actually merge together. And when I'm talking to teams and doing the review of, okay, how are we scaling up the marketing of these glasses from the launch of the special one-off with Mbappe to we have hundreds of thousands, if not millions of these, hopefully to sell. Okay, which creators are we selecting to go broader? How are we looking at what their metrics are, what their reach is, what their impressions are, how those overlap with our target demographic with people who visited meta.com and looked like they were buying? All of these kind of details. How do we do that? How do we analyze that? So when I'm coaching the folks, I'm like, okay, you want to do influencer marketing. You need to convince our CFO that we should be paying this influencer a huge amount of money or this set of influencers a huge amount of money. Let's talk through how you would actually explain that to the CFO, how I'd explain it. And that sort of keeps me current because I'm working on each new thing. And I'm even on like direct response marketing. I do a really massive deep dive with my direct response marketing teams. And it's awesome. It keeps me super up to date on the detail of like how are automated ad campaigns going. I'm really excited by this thing YouTube and Google have launched where you can optimize YouTube campaigns to increase brand searches. I think that's brilliant. I think it's absolutely brilliant. I'm really excited about it. And so staying in the details when I'm reviewing with the teams and coaching people, it is the reviewing and coaching is about the details and how do you succeed.
You're now 18 years into your career at Meta. You've risen to the C-level suite and you decided to write a book. Why are you writing a book about marketing now?
You know, the there's two answers to that. One answer is, there's a gap in the market. People are always asking me for the book. My teams ask me to do thought leadership because I do run business marketing and I market to marketers. And so they want me to go off and talk about marketing to marketers. And I don't really feel comfortable doing that kind of thought leadership. But a semi kind of academic treatise that hopefully is very readable and has been edited to the place of very readable, that actually talks about the practice of marketing, feels like a very authentic form of thought leadership to me. And so it made me feel very comfortable to do that thing that we need as a company. The second, and I think the deeper answer to me, is I am sick and tired of there being no positive thing about online marketing in a lot of the general kind of conversation. It's always, yeah, it's surveillance capitalism. It's all of these, oh, it's privacy. It's like there's all these things. And of course, we follow all the privacy regulations to the letter of the law and beyond. We're very clear about like making sure we do the right thing. And you can argue how much of that's the FTC consent decree and how much is the company, but the company has changed and we go a long way on privacy. But I just want to say, like, marketing is good and online marketing is good. And it is a good thing that people get personalized ads. It is a good thing that people get ads for slightly more relevant trainers to them. And in my opinion, someone needs to be out there saying that growth is good. Marketing drives growth. Actually, online marketing is brilliant at driving growth. Our profession is great at driving growth. Growth grows the economy. Growth gets taxes paid. Growth gets people employed. And marketing is a huge thing for driving growth. And we should be proud of it. And someone needs to be saying that. And I was getting frustrated of no one doing it, so I did it.
I appreciate you standing up for us marketers, and I think that there's been plenty of criticism of Meta. You mentioned the privacy concerns, and what I think is ignored by many people is how reliant people are on the platform to build their businesses and to feed their families. It's easy to point out the things that haven't gone well. It's also easy to ignore the things that are important to marketers and to businesses, the ones that Meta services. So I want to turn the page to what's actually in the book. Yeah, and I understand the rationale to stand up for us marketers. Thank you, Alex. But you've got a methodology for marketing, and one of the things that you mentioned is the North Star goal. So talk to me a little bit about your marketing philosophy and how it's communicated in the book, and how do you think about this North Star goal as the alignment for marketing?
Well, given we both worked at eBay, I felt that eBay didn't have clarity on the North Star goal it was trying to achieve to me.
You mean buying Skype wasn't a logical thing at the time?
The power of three. And it was actually like, it's just very challenging to me. Like, was our North Star increase market cap of the company? Was our North Star accelerate commerce online? What was our North Star? And that meant we had all of these kind of strategery conversations that went in loops. And it was very hard to make a decision without going up to Meg Whitman. At Meta, when I joined Meta, it was such a drastic difference. And this is the first time I've ever described it like this, because talking to you, like, it's so relevant because of our time together at eBay. Like, at Meta, I joined Meta, and it was super clear. Our goal is connect the world online. And that meant connect it through Facebook. And so it was very clear what our goal was. Our goal wasn't maximize market cap. It wasn't profitability. It wasn't number of pictures uploaded or number of comments or number of likes. It was connect the world online. And
Put everybody in the same network so we could talk.
And that provided a razor that made every decision simpler. We could move faster. We could make decisions without going up to Zuck. And that made such a big difference. And so for me, the clarity of having a North Star goal, in our case, connect the world online, is game changing for moving fast, making decisions, and knowing what to do and what not to do. And it was a big juxtaposition to me for Facebook versus eBay. And I wonder if eBay had been absolutely clear that it was going to transform the world through online commerce or bring all of commerce online or something like that, that it might have actually executed better. I don't know.
It's interesting to think about the lack of clarity of what we're trying to accomplish. And I do think that the goals have changed. Speaking specifically at our time at eBay, it was to build the largest online trading platform. And then once we were that, all of a sudden we needed to expand. We got into payments and communications, and it became very messy and unclear at the time we were there. You did mention something that sticks out to me, that there was a very clear goal at Meta, or a North Star. But you also said that the goal is not the number of photos, or whatever the other metrics are. How do you think about the difference between goals and metrics?
Yeah, I mean, the job as head of analytics is actually my bigger job at Meta. It's certainly the thing that Mark values the most. For me, the thing you always have to remember is a metric is not a goal. A metric is something that you use to try and describe a goal, make it measurable, and put it into numbers. And the famous one is Goodhart's law, which you've probably heard a load of times, which is like any measure that is used as a goal ceases to be a useful measure. I don't think that's quite true, but when you turn a metric into a goal and you conflate the two, you lose something because the metric never perfectly describes the goal. And so for me, that's the separation. You have a goal and then you have something you try and describe it with. For us, connect the world online through Facebook, monthly active users of Facebook. And then you need to actually have some guardrail metrics associated with it. For example, if I sent a bunch of emails that people clicked on once, resurrected for Facebook, and then went away after 2 seconds, I could move up the MAU metric, but that would be a really bad way to do it. And so we have % weekly active and % daily active so that we're not bringing minimally active users, as the Twitter folks used to say about us. eBay did this with confirmed registered users and activated confirmed registered users. And we started, it was all CRUs, confirmed registered users. They brought in activated CRUs as being the actual metric, which made a lot more sense. For acquisition, where that bit of the company, the North Star, was acquire a bunch of users, but it was active users. And it brought so many things out of the woodwork. It changed the landing page. It changed the affiliate models that were viable. It changed so many things because it was the right metric.
I haven't heard the term ACRU in a long time.
Oh, I think about it every week still. Like eBay comes up all the time at work. The stuff we learned is so timeless.
Yeah, it's not only a timeless case study, but the alumni network at eBay is an astounding thing. And we were there at a really interesting time. It felt like a transitional time in web history, right? We were there at the end of 1.0, the beginning of 2.0, and it seems like we're going in a, I don't know whether it's V4 or V5 or whatever, the
Yep.
AI era.
Yes.
How do you think about the changes from marketers now that we're going into this AI, everything is generated for us type of marketing?
Yeah, I mean, in that world, I think the thing to remember is, well, there's two questions. One is, how weird is it going to get? Which is one of my favorite questions at the moment. Like, is it going to be all the way to the gentle singularity, or is our Max Doom AI 2027 going to happen? Like,
Yeah, which science fiction movie are you leaning towards?
exactly. Well, I'm hoping for the culture.
Good.
Ian Banks, the culture series. That's.
I hope we end at her and just move on.
I'm afraid I don't think we will. So the first one is, you definitely have to think, how weird's it going to get? But putting it to one side, like you've heard this before, I'm sure you believe it. Like, AI isn't going to take your job in the near term. Somebody else using AI is going to take your job. And so where is the human value? The human value isn't in rote, repeatable tasks. The human value is in creativity. And a lot of times creativity gets limited to, oh, pretty pixels. That's the only thing that's creativity. It isn't. Creativity is across all parts of marketing. You can be creative in how you think about data, what data you feed through to auto-optimizing AI ad campaigns. The creativity of the idea that Yorkshire Tea came up with, where it's tea done proper, and then they do Muzak done proper, and they have a very famous band playing the Muzak in the elevator. Onboarding talks done proper, and it's Sean Bean doing the onboarding talk for Yorkshire Tea. And that creative idea, that's not going to come from AI. And you've got those kind of ideas with data, for what data you feed through. You've got those kind of ideas for creative, where what is the creative concept? And so the value is, I think, going to accrue up the stack into the more creative levels of the work, and less into the, I'm doing 57 executions of this, banner ad.
I don't want to have you give away the entire book, but I do want to get into some of what you cover. Did you get into the changes of the marketing landscape based on AI, and how do you frame it?
Yeah, I do. And I think it matters to think about it by channel. I think that the challenging thing I would say to you is, actually, chatting with a chatbot, like AI chat, has a lot more in common with sending a postcard through direct mail than you would originally think.
Go on.
It has the same questions on, do you have the right token? Do you have the right deliverability? Will someone actually click and interact? Will someone convert? Like, it is messages that people are doing back and forth. The only thing that's happening is it's happening quicker. And you're able to like automate it and make that much more kind of interactive. So a lot of what I do in the book is I say, okay, well, what principles are true about direct mail over the post that then makes sense when email comes along, that then makes sense when SMS comes along, push notifications, AI chatbots over WhatsApp, what makes sense the whole way through? Search. Search is going to change. You're already seeing it. You've got these fully summarized Gemini units at the top of search. It's very clear on Google. You've also got this very clear thing, which when people use ChatGPT, they seem to reduce their search volume. At the moment, the Gemini and Google adding units is increasing search, it seems, more than the ChatGPT users decreasing search, and so Google's netting out ahead. That's cool. They're in an interesting innovator's dilemma. Whatever happens, though, if there are ads next to it and there is some form of ad-supported AI-type search, you're going to have something query-related that you need to buy against. It's going to need to be conceptually very similar to what you learned about in search in the past. And so, yes, I talk about each channel, and I do mention how I think AI could or could not change it. I definitely note Arthur C. Clarke's book, Profiles of the Future, and how anyone who predicts is going to like be embarrassed. And then I sum it up at the end to talk through what I think AI can do. But the biggest thing I try and do is what are the timeless principles that will actually transcend the next platform transformation? Maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong, but that is what I've really tried to do. And I've used the history of marketing to get me there.
I alluded to this in our intro, which is we have access to these tools that are making even the creative portion of marketing more scientific. I can go to GPT and create a banner ad, then I can go to Meta and optimize my campaign and creating, targeting, flighting, optimization. Uh, One of the concerns is we talk about the foundation of marketing and understanding the principles and the goals and the alignment there, but are these tools making so many decisions for us? How do we avoid getting into like reinforcement bias?
Yeah, so this is funny because I literally have a section in the book, not specifically about creative component, but about automated ad campaigns and how sometimes they can behave weirdly. You can sometimes get into sort of local minima and avoid the global maxima, and what you should do to bust out of that. And it's like new data, take down the old account, build a new account, like bust it out of the minima. I think the thing that's most important, so there's a how there. How would you bust out the minima? The hard thing is how do you spot that you have got yourself into a local minima and you're avoiding the global maxima? Two thoughts on that. One, I think that's always been true. You've got a great ad campaign. You keep using it for 5 years. How do you know there isn't a better ad campaign that you haven't tried? How do you know it hasn't got too tired? So I don't even know that this is a new problem with AI. I think it's a problem with marketing in general. And then two, how do you do this? You really focus on the details. You actually like look into it. You try things. If you're in there and you just let it run and you don't try anything, you don't turn it on and turn it off. You don't like try a different campaign on a different system. You don't launch another account every now and then and see if there's something else interesting that happens. Then you are doomed to end up in doom loops for sure. But if you are continually tweaking and trying things and looking at the new stuff and trying new accounts and trying all that stuff, you will actually find out, oh, is that really, really good? Or have I actually fallen into a local minima? So I think the biggest piece is be active in managing it. Don't just sit back and be completely passive. Be engaged.
Interesting. Going back to the conversation about AI is like creativity matters. The thought matters. Thinking back through your career arc, going from, hey, we're sitting on the same floor at eBay to now, CMO at a global enterprise, there was something that was consistent that I think everybody recognized early on, which was your intellectual curiosity. Understanding not just what to do to get ahead, but how does it work? Why does it work? What is happening? Constantly thinking through, testing, iterating, pushing. And honestly, when we were younger, I didn't quite understand it. I thought you were just messing with stuff and being aggressive and maybe even a little grabby. And now that we're older, I'm like, no, that was the best trait a marketer can have is consistently testing and trying and understanding and figuring out how the machine works. So A, I'm excited to read your book, and B, I'm not surprised you landed where you are.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. I mean, one of my favorite moments at eBay, although it was very sort of sad as well, was when we had that big affiliate fraud case. Do you remember that? Like,
Yeah, sure.
yeah. And I remember I was the person who back engineered how it was done. Like the engineers were sitting there going, I don't know how they're dropping the cookie. This makes no sense. And I went up to my desk and I built something that did the exact same thing on my cocktail site. And I came downstairs and showed it to them and they were like, no.
For anybody that isn't familiar with the story, eBay had a multi-million-dollar affiliate fraud case where people were fraudulently dropping cookies, and I won't be able to do it justice by describing how it was done, but basically cookie stuffing, taking credit for transactions that they weren't involved in.
I go into it in the book. Like if you want to hear that, like I write the case up in the book.
It ended up being an FBI case, and the feds were like at
Yep.
eBay taking people's laptops. It was a whole big thing. And we have some friends that were really nervous that they were being questioned and whether they were going to get in trouble or not.
It was my first deposition. It was terrifying. And I remember one time I was on the back of a boat in Boston Harbor. The affiliate in question was in the boat. Like Matt Ackley, the head of internet marketing, was on one backside of the deck because Google had just bussed a bunch of people away from Meg's keynote and we were turning off all of our ads on Google. And I was on the other side of the deck talking to the FBI agent managing the case. And I'm like, this is crazy.
I appreciate that it's your first deposition. I'm sure that you've gone through a lot of other fun exercises, but I won't get into that.
One or two.
Let's move on. I want to go into our lightning round where I ask you a couple of questions about Meta, your book, marketing. Are you ready?
Yes.
All right. AI is shifting the marketing landscape. How do you think features like Google's AI mode are going to impact how people market?
I think a lot of principles are going to remain the same about incrementality, measurement, and so on. But I think it's going to absolutely transform how we market.
You mentioned before that there's a correlation between how much people are using chatbots like GPT and their search experiences. Do you have a sense of that traditional search is going away in favor of chat experiences, and will search marketing be affected? I guess what I'm really asking is, are we just going to be paying services like GPT for tokens, or are we going to be monetizing for access to information using advertising models like we have been in the past?
I mean, this is a question I don't know the answer to. Like the game is up. So game is on. So Google is doing an amazing job with Gemini. And when people are interacting with Gemini, they seem to be actually increasing their search volume, increasing their engagement. Now they're keeping people on the site. You know, the future's here. It's not evenly distributed yet. And if you look at what's happened to Stack Overflow, they have been completely disrupted by chat and GPT and Gemini and all of these things. So there's going to be a massive shift in how organic search happens and what you're even optimizing for. Is it AI engine optimization? But there's one world where no, Google makes the transition. They win. It remains ad supported. Gemini is the victor, and you are still typing things into a box on Google. And maybe it kicks off a chat, but maybe it instantly gives you an answer or even behaves agentically and buys what you want. So there's one world where Google wins. There's another world, and clearly this is one of the things that OpenAI is trying for, where OpenAI goes off and wins, and they transfer people's search from Google into OpenAI, and they get to this place where people are searching through chatting back and forth with a chatbot, and it's paid. And in that world, we still need to think about AI engine optimization. It becomes like SEO for the future, and there's a lot of similarities there in terms of how it crawls, how it ranks, where it gets data, whatever. But no ads. And so that will totally change the industry. What I suspect is going to happen is a blend of the two, like both are going to exist, and probably the overall search-esque market is going to grow. But who's the winner and who's the loser? Does Google end up way ahead? They're awesome, they're impressive, they're the 800-pound gorilla. Or do they end up splitting it with, you know, even people like us through Meta AI? Who knows? I think it's going to be really exciting to watch.
Okay, I was just going to ask, in your description of the changing landscape of marketing and advertising, sure, there's this very easy comparison between what will happen with Google and OpenAI, but you didn't actually say where Meta fits into this. So just sort of in that juxtaposition, there's this search model and there's these LLMs that people are going to directly, but where does Meta fit into that universe?
I mean, our hope is, well, first and foremost, we think it's going to go with you everywhere. So we have AI glasses. These are the most advanced, like, wearable there is in the world right now. This is actually an engineering sample that I have right here, which probably isn't showing on the camera.
They look cool.
So these are really awesome. And when you ask them a question, they answer it and they do it. And they can also use what you're looking at the same time to take your worldview and make it better. And they're going to get better and better and better as our AI advances, and our AI will advance. Had a great year in last year. So far, it's not been so good this year, but we've got some amazing people on board who I think are going to accelerate it. So for talk, for voice interface, we think we're in a really good position right now. Now, Google's done a deal with Warby Parker. They want to get in there. Then from a chat interface, people are chatting away. Over 1 billion people are chatting away with Meta AI at this point. So we're definitely in the race there as well. So my hope is we're in the game. The main thing we've used it for, though, is ads ranking, content ranking, engagement, because the whole TikTok, YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, Facebook Reels could not have happened without modern AI. 5 years ago, we were all about followed content. Today, we are majority about unfollowed content that is ranked through these modern AI systems. So there's a number of different angles that are coming in here. And of course, the last one is AI-generated content, which you must be seeing on TikTok and Instagram because it's happening. What happens to social media in an AI-generated content world? We don't know, but we're looking at it very closely too. So I think there's multiple different angles on which this gets like interesting and disrupted, and we're in the game, and that makes it fun for me.
And we're definitely in the first inning of the game. I want to move on to our next question, which honestly, I can't believe your PR team let me ask, but I'm excited to hear your answer. All right. I want you to close your eyes and think back. It's been a couple of years now. What went through your head when Apple first introduced the app transparency tracking feature in iOS 14.5?
Those smart, cynical bastards. That was what went through my... I mean, they are so good, aren't they? Like, I mean, they really are. Like, but there's the one side where it's like, you can be annoyed at them, but there's the other side where it's the game. They operate in China, and yet they have a privacy brand, which in and of itself is just hilarious because I was part of the team that tried to get us into China.
It was a good try.
We can't operate a messaging system in China. So that's interesting. And then on top of that, they go and bury in their menu that when it's them, it's personalization. But when it's anyone else, it's tracking. I mean, it's so smart. And obviously they wanted to grow their services business. It's very high margin. It was a deliberate play. So I was like, hats off to you. I'm annoyed at you, but you smart, cynical bastards.
Honestly, one of the first things that went through my head was, oh man, Alex is going to have a rough week.
Well, the person who did the analysis for this was on my team. His name is David Sasaki. He had a very rough weekend. I had a less rough weekend when this came out. He predicted it. So the analysis we did, he was right. It was bang on. We presented it to the board. It was really good work. He's now the head of analytics for OpenAI.
And my understanding is it was a forcing function specifically at Meta to rely on more of the concept of synthetic data. So what was the positive thing that came out of it?
Yeah, I mean, I think the interesting thing we said at the time, I did an ad with Grace Jones, believe it or not, that talked about the impact of this on SMBs, which sometimes my life is very weird. We have the capabilities, the technology, the staff, the data to recover from a change like this.
Sometimes you have to go through the fire.
And so what it did was it forced us to understand synthetic data more. It forced us to model things out more. And it honestly made us smarter at doing things with less data, which in and of itself made us, I think, more privacy protecting in the work that we did because we're using more predicted data, we're using less data to do things. And so we have the capacity to do things, with less data, which makes it more private. Yeah. And we came out stronger because of it. And I think the thing that's sad is a bunch of weaker companies actually got hurt more materially than the bigger platforms because Apple made it harder to do online tracking and conversion. Now, the good thing is I definitely think it killed some of the bad third-party data people. So there's swings and roundabouts. But yeah, it forced us to be leaner, fitter, better. And we came out of it, I think, stronger. But it was really painful.
All right, so my next question, there's been a lot of discussion about Meta's AI hiring focus. How has it affected the rest of the company?
I think everyone's really excited. Like the conversations I have is people are super stoked that we're spending all this money on data centers, but we're really trying to bring in the best talent to make the most of it. So far on my team, there's a level of excitement around this that's really, really high. Let's see how it plays out. But at the moment, it's kind of galvanizing. And, these guys, Nat and Alex, I mean, I've known Alex since he was a teenager. I was actually an investor in Scale AI. And, Alex and Nat, they're very positive guys. Like when they say things in the company, it's kind of inspiring And so at the moment, I feel that it's being really uplifting. That's the impression I'm getting. Um, Maybe I have a skewed view, but the people I talk to they're pretty excited that Mark is taking these risks and taking big swings. And it's certainly what I prefer. I don't want to just like butts along. Like I want to be at a company that takes risks and takes swings, you know?
It's very clear Meta is trying to win.
Yes.
Sitting on the sidelines, reading the news, sipping my coffee, my thought is that tech is getting a little bit more like professional sports. You have these big transfer fees or free agent signings, and we're seeing all these brilliant upstart smart people that are starting their own thing and they're getting all this attention, but they're being pulled into these larger organizations. It's the talent consolidation. It's sort of like celebritizes our industry, which is kind of fun to watch.
Yeah, I think what's funny is it's just become public. Like so there's this guy Andrew Tullock who's been doing the rounds, and I love him. I worked with him early on in his time at Meta. I was a big fan. Anyway, so he's now with Mira at Thinking Machines, and you know what? Sam poached him from us. Mira poached him from Sam. We tried to poach him back allegedly. Like this has been going on. It's just like now it's in the public a little bit more. And there's more of it, but I do actually think there's a chunk of it that is the veil has just been lifted on some of the stuff that was going on under the hood.
You know, there's this comparison that I mentioned, like professional sports. There's also a dating metaphor in there somewhere, like, hey, I'm a free agent and I can go where I want. It's interesting to see it play out in the public.
Mm.
I want to move to my next question, and I'd be remiss if I didn't ask a question about your boss. What's the one thing people don't understand about Mark Zuckerberg's marketing philosophy?
I think the one thing people don't understand about Mark, full stop, is how amazing a learner he is. Like he sits and he learns from the best. So, you know, on marketing, I remember when we were rebranding the company, David Droger, who is one of the greatest creatives alive, was in the room with us helping us do the rebrand. And I brought him on board because I'm not one of the greatest creatives alive, and he is. And so I brought him into the mix. And you'd just sit in these meetings and Mark would listen. And I mean, I'm not that good. I'm not going to say I'm that good at it. Like, how many CEOs or C-suite executives will say, this is not my superpower. I'm going to listen to the smartest people I know on this thing before I make any conclusions or any decision. And so the number one thing that I think people don't get about Mark, and it really applies to how he works with marketing in my team, is he is really willing and keen to educate himself before he makes any decisions. And he isn't one of these know-it-all CEOs who thinks he knows everything about every field. He knows what he doesn't know, and he makes the effort to educate himself. And I think it's like pretty inspiring, and I'm not anywhere near as good at it.
All right, last question here. You're going to look into your crystal ball and tell us marketers what we can expect. Platforms like Meta are creating campaigns to do full campaign creation and optimization. So what happens to the marketing profession when a platform like Meta can say, go out and figure out who my target is, the optimization tactics, go get me customers, go make me business? What's the purpose of marketing and what happens to us?
Well, first and foremost, creative. Like right now, these machines aren't creative. It really feels that everyone I've talked to in the field doesn't know the path by which they get creative. And so first and foremost, the creative idea becomes more and more valuable. That'd be one. And creative idea does not just mean pretty pictures. It doesn't just mean a brand idea. It means how you use data, how you think about the campaign, how you structure things. There's lots of things in creativity. Point two is, for me, there's a framework I look at. One is things that are being done already that are very routine will actually get automated and be made more efficient by AI. Bunch of them will. That will mean, yeah, you're right. What is the job of those people? There will be less work in that space. So that one just is. The second thing that's going to happen is, and for that, an example I'd use right now for us is like producing 47 different executions of a given banner ad. AI is starting to get very involved in that. The second thing is stuff that was technically possible, but was just really expensive suddenly becomes viable. An example I'd use there is now for Facebook, if you lose access to your account in the US, there's customer support chat that you can use. That is entirely enabled via AI. There's a bunch more humans actually who've been hired. There's a bunch more people who've been hired because at some point the AI has to hand off. There's training from humans, there's labeling, there's, measurement, there's like evals in the measurement to understand, did we get it right? So actually that's created jobs because we've taken something that we could have done with an army of people, but there's no way it would ever have been viable. And it's been made viable by AI. And then the third thing that will happen is things that weren't even possible suddenly become possible. The example I'd use there is the unconnected content ranking, TikTok, YouTube Shorts, Facebook and Instagram Reels, Spotlight on Snapchat. That couldn't be done because there wasn't semantic understanding of content and user intent 6 years ago. And then the modern AI systems made it possible, and you went from all of social media being about followed, joined, liked, friended content to the majority of time on social media now being about unconnected content, and it's just the thing that's going to excite you the most. So all three of those categories will happen. And in marketing, we need to think about which of our jobs is in category one. Okay, that'll be made more efficient. And what happens in category two? What's something we knew we could do, but now we can do it. And then category three, looking for the opportunities that blossom up because entirely new things become available. And all three of those things are going to happen. And you want to skate towards category two and above all category three.
All right, Alex, I know your time is precious, and I appreciate you coming on the podcast. I'm very excited to read your book. And honestly, I don't want to say it's been 20 years, but it has been a very long time.
Not quite 20 years because we had a few eBay things where we crossed paths. But yeah, it's been a while.
Almost. It's great to reconnect and see you again. And thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you very much for having me, and congratulations on this successful podcast.
All right, that wraps up this episode of the MarTech podcast. Thanks for listening to my conversation with Alex Schultz, the CMO and VP of Analytics at Meta. If you'd like to get in contact with Alex, you can find a link to his LinkedIn profile in our show notes or on martechpod.com. Of course, you can find his company's website, which is meta.com. And his book comes out in early October, so get a copy. There's a link to the book in our show notes. If you haven't subscribed yet and you want a daily stream of marketing and technology knowledge in your podcast feed, go ahead and click the subscribe button in your podcast app or on YouTube, and we'll be back in your feed next week. All right, that's it for today. But until next time, my advice is to just focus on keeping your customers happy.